You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 236 of Podketeers. By the time that this episode is released, we will be past Christmas and almost every other holiday this season, so we hope that you've all had a wonderful time celebrating. This week we talk about the awesome that can come when two music styles collide. The Tropical Hideaway is now open at Disneyland. We discuss some of the things that we may see and hope to see during Mickey's upcoming celebration. And we discuss an online petition regarding the use of the phrase Hakuna Matata. Remember that if you want to join the conversation, you can connect with us by searching for Podketeers on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. You can also leave a comment in the blog post for this episode at podketeers.com/236. If you got any of those Amazon gift cards that you need to blow on awesome merchandise before you make that next purchase, give us a hand by starting off that purchase over at podketeers.com/Amazon and then by clicking on the big button on that page. Doing that will take you to Amazon using our special referral link, and anything that you buy may earn us a small commission as a thank you from Amazon for mentioning them on this podcast. To everyone that has taken a few extra seconds to help us out in that way, we thank you very, very much. Finally, a big shout out as always to the FGP Squad for their help in making these episodes of Podketeers possible via their contributions on Patreon. For more info on how you can become one of our podcast Fairy Godparents, head on over to podketeers.com/FGP. To all of the members of the FGP Squad, thank you as always for your help and support. Alright, so once again, we hope you've had a wonderful time celebrating the holidays. Here is episode 236 of Podketeers. That's like my favorite part of the whole thing. You know, it's those types of little things that just make you feel better after a long, long day of Christmas shopping. Because,
Yay!
like,
last minute Christmas shopping.
well, I mean, that's what you do, right?
Yeah?
Right.
Because online sales and stuff for the last month or two isn't good enough. It doesn't get really good until like the last day or two before Christmas. Everybody knows that.
It's not the real experience unless you're full on, jingle all the waying it.
That's the way it should be.
Wrestling for toys.
That's right, America. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Little elbow drop here, leg drop there, rock bottom here, stone cold stunner there. That's how you get your toys for Christmas, man.
Wow.
And in case anybody's wondering, I'm kidding about that. But I did spend a very lovely day in super long lines and in a lot of traffic because I wasn't kidding about starting my holiday shopping yesterday.
Yikes.
I think most of you know that we record this several days before it's released, and so I didn't know if I should start the conversation off with like, hey guys, how was your Christmas? Because this episode's going to be released after Christmas, but we're recording this before, and that would have just been dumb. So I just thought, okay, it's Christmas Eve, because it's 2 days before Christmas. And, man, seriously, it's been a super frustrating day knowing that I was going to come hang out with you guys and then hang out with my wife for a little while and watch some TV when we're done. Pretty much is what helped me get through my day today because, it's just, shoppers. I'm going to keep this PG, guys.
You know what the worst part is? At least in my experience, worse than the crowded stores, worse than the long checkout lines, worse than the traffic on the streets, it's the parking lots.
Yes.
That's the worst.
Oh my God,
You're
yes.
not kidding.
It's just terrible. People are mean. People are pushy. You have to park 10 miles away. That's the worst part.
And if you think shopping centers are bad, the post office is just as bad.
Oh, sure.
People have no patience whatsoever. It's ridiculous.
Look, I'm masochistic when it comes to buying Christmas gifts, but not that much that I'm going to the post office on Christmas. No, that's an impossible mission right there.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, I had that to do. I'm happy that I got through it, that I came home unscathed. And I just want to throw out there that I completely empathize with all of you that work retail during the holidays, because I've been there, man. I worked retail for 7 years before I moved into an office job. And, oh, man, the holidays were the worst because you have people irate coming in. And, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, I try to keep myself on check because I try to put myself in the shoes of this person. They don't control the company. They don't control the sales or what's going on. They don't control the quantity. Unless you're the person that orders, then yes, you do control the quality. But I'm just saying, if it's just somebody that's out on the sales floor, they can't control that stuff. So do your best not to be mean to those people, because those are the people that are going to help you. And if you're not nice to them, they have every right not to help you. You know, keep it nice. Just be nice. We're all human beings. Okay, that's what it comes down to.
Of course, this is all advice for a year from now, because our episode comes out after Christmas.
This is not advice for a year from now. This is advice for any time, because whether you're shopping for Christmas or for a birthday or just in general, I mean, just do your best to keep yourself on check when you're talking to anybody in the service industry, especially somebody that deals with your food. Okay, like, why would you be mean to somebody that can potentially spit in your food before they bring it out? I'm just saying. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's true.
You're not wrong.
That's what I'm saying. So, you know, keep it nice. Let's all be as nice as we can to each other. And yes, we get upset, but I mean, sometimes we can do stuff about it, sometimes we can't. But anyway, frustrating day just because of all the traffic and everything. I'm glad I made it through. Most of the shopping that I had to do is pretty much done.
Nice.
Along that same line, I was in the car and I was listening to just music to try to calm me down. Unfortunately, some of that music also tends to amp me up when I'm like in that mode. It got me thinking about that song that I sent you guys earlier this week, which was the mariachi version of the Avengers theme, because it's awesome.
It is
so good. You know what? Before we even continue talking about this, let me play a little piece of this for you, for all of you listening, because it's just okay. Here, take a listen. Come on now. Come on. You can't tell me that you listen to that and you don't get all amped up and you're like, yeah, I'm an Avenger too. Right?
It excites me, but I didn't connect it with the Avengers, as you know, because I'm not super familiar with their soundtracks.
You don't say. Tell me more.
Right? Yeah, I don't need to. You know it. You know it quite well. But, you know, I do know that when I've watched those films, I have noted that, yes, they have great music. I just am not familiar with it. And what these guys did, though, in taking a movie score, rearranging it for a mariachi arrangement, is super impressive. And they do a great job, especially with the challenging acoustics of a tiny comic book shop. And they did, it sounds spectacular. It sounds like more than 7 people, for sure.
Yeah.
It sounds big and epic, just like all those films do. So they did a great job.
I'm all excited to just share how emotional this was, like, after you're watching. I mean, if you read my comment, I did say who's cutting onions, because yes, I am a crybaby. I did cry because it's just so emotional. You feel it, kind of like Coco. You are the music, you feel it and whatnot, and it's the little thing that you see at the end. I'm not gonna say I related to. I should say I related to, because when someone passes, you do this little thing. I can relate to that because I've done it. So, yeah. I mean, it hits you in the feels.
Yeah, super touching. I will say, though, that the beginning of the video, super cheesy. Like, I could have done with that whole first, like, the intro portion of it. And so you could tell that the people in this band are also kind of nerdy and they like comics and they like video games and stuff like that, just because of the passion that they put into putting this video and this piece together. Because like Gavin said, it's super impressive what they did with 7 people, because orchestral pieces are 30, 60, 80, pieces of instrumentation that are all, cohesive and make this amazing piece of music. But man, I got the same chills and the same feeling listening to them, and that's why I was so pumped up, because I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this, Thanos. Because if you've seen the first Avengers movie, this is what happened. It's the music that you hear when they assemble in New York for the very first time. It's the Avengers suite. They're all there. And oh my god, I'm telling you, man. So, and here's the thing. Very rarely do I connect with a piece of music on 2 levels. This one, I connected with it on that, like, superhero, like, level, but also on the I'm a proud Mexican level, where like the mariachis they got it done.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, boy.
Dude, you're so amped up right now.
You have no idea.
It's awesome.
It's so good. I'm telling you.
That's hilarious.
If you guys enjoyed the little piece that I played for you guys, go to the blog post for the episode over at podketeers.com/236. You can watch the whole video. The beginning, kind of unmemorable, except for the part where they were trying to get the mariachi band to play the old school X-Men theme. Yeah. That's kind of cool. I will accept that, because as we know, that original X-Men cartoon had one of the most symbolic pieces of music. That was a cartoon that brought us Gambit.
Childhood.
So I'm just saying, super cool.
Nice.
So, anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
You may be shocked to hear that a superhero thing got me totally amped up today too.
Did you see Iron Man?
Dude, no. I have a new favorite superhero movie, and it's called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Shut up. Did you watch it?
It is phenomenal.
Nice.
So good. Yes. I am so excited about it. They should give it the Best Animated Feature Awards right now. It is the best thing to come out this year. Sorry, Incredibles 2. Sorry, Wreck-It Ralph 2. It's the best thing that's come out this year. It's fan-freaking-tastic.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
So the fact that you just told Incredibles 2 and Wreck-It Ralph, or Ralph Breaks the Internet, to move aside for this one means a lot coming from you. So
it's so good.
What put it up on that pedestal for you? Was it the writing? Was it the visuals? What exactly was it?
Yeah, for me, it hit on all levels. When I used to review animated films with Animation Station podcast, shout out to Josh.
What's up, Josh?
We would basically break 3 levels down for every single movie. We'd talk about the art, we'd talk about the music, and we'd talk about the story. So I kind of see movies in those 3 categories, and this hits top tier on every single one of those. I thought the story was perfect. It was really interesting and gripping and kept you excited and interested for what was around the corner the whole time.
Nice.
And it did a great job of telling the story of this particular Spider-Man, which I didn't know anything about. So I felt like I got to see the origin and understand it and understand where it kind of played into the rest of the Spider-Verse, so to speak. And the music was phenomenal. They really played up the whole Brooklyn hip hop cultural thing that was kind of birthed out of that part of the country.
Cool.
And so they ride that real hard, and it's awesome. It plays into the film very well. And then the animation itself is so freaking cool, experimental stylistically, in a way that Pixar and Disney just never seem to feel comfortable doing. They're always going for their Disney look or their Pixar look. And so everything, even though if it's monsters or cars or superheroes, they all kind of have a look. You can identify a Pixar film in the first 3 seconds if you didn't know it was Pixar, right? They have a style. Disney's the same, and that's fine. They're awesome at what they do, but they're only pushing technical boundaries with their films, with beautiful lighting and textures and stuff like that, which they're probably the best at still. But when it comes to artistic expression, they're not changing the world. And what Sony Animation did on this picture is something I've never seen in animation. And they pushed a style as far as they wanted to and just went for it. And it comes off so well. It serves the story and the content. You know, it serves that comic booky look so freaking well. Oh man, I'm so pumped up about it. They did a great job. And it's probably my favorite superhero movie at this point, and it's definitely my favorite animated movie of the year. It's going to be one of my favorite animated movies for a while, I think. It's really, really good.
Wow.
5 stars, 2 thumbs up.
Thanks.
So, I didn't get a chance to watch this like I originally planned because, I spent my time doing something much more fun, which was, standing in lines. But one of the questions I had going into this film was how they were going to integrate all of the different storylines and different spider people from the different universes. Did it feel organic the way that they introduced all the different spider people, or did it kind of feel forced?
I thought it felt very organic and natural. They were really efficient with the storytelling. So they dropped these other spider characters in and gave you a real succinct explanation of who they are and why they're there. And then the story just goes on. It doesn't divert to tons of backstory for all of them, and they don't have any side adventures. They just kind of come in and add texture to the main problem at hand. Then it becomes kind of a team situation, and then it all resolves in a way where the main hero's the main hero. I mean, that's not a spoiler. That's how it's going to happen in a
common hero storytelling
superhero movie. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they did a great job with it. Like I never knew of any of these other Spider-Men or iterations of it. Like they're not all men. I guess that may or may not be a spoiler, but and it all made sense to me, and I think that also in the larger Marvel universe, this film kind of sits really nicely. It doesn't feel separate from all of that. There are some things that definitely tie it to the MCU at large and make it feel like it is a part of the collective, so to speak.
Oh, that's good.
Even though it doesn't have, like Avengers characters in it, but it feels like it's in the same realm.
Excuse me, Spider-Man is an Avenger.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Don't you remember in Infinity War when they're up in space and Tony Stark is like, "Hey kid, you're now an Avenger," and he christens him.
Hazen, I can't remember films I haven't seen, buddy.
That's true. That's true. Touche. Okay, so my bad. I just spoiled that part for you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's totally fine. I mean, he was in Civil War, right?
Yeah, I mean, for a tiny bit when they were having that big old battle.
Yeah, at the airport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've seen him hang out with the Avengers.
Yeah.
So, I guess I knew some of that.
So, would you say that the story was more Miles' story or Peter's story?
Miles.
It was all Miles? That's good.
I can't really tell you about the Peter Parker side of the story without spoiling pretty big plot points.
Got it.
So I won't tell you, but it is definitely focused on Miles Morales and his story, his origin, and, coming to be a hero.
Okay.
It's really good. It has great drama in the story. I feel like it has a couple of really good villains, and it never drags. I never felt like there was a lull. It was really tight storytelling, really great action and momentum. Everything hit for me. This is one of the best movies I've seen in a while. It's really, really good.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that it kind of ties into the MCU because we've already kind of seen a tie-in very briefly about Miles Morales. It's not a huge spoiler or anything, but if you've seen Spider-Man Homecoming, there's a scene where Peter goes into a parking lot or into like a parking structure, and he meets up with this thief played by Donald Glover. The character's name is the Prowler. And the Prowler makes a vague reference to his nephew. And for those that are familiar with the comic book, the Prowler's nephew is Miles Morales. So there's already been kind of a mention to that version of Spider-Man in the MCU. So I don't know how it necessarily ties into the Spider-Verse film, but I'm hoping that we get a chance to see a little bit more of that in upcoming Spider-Man films, because this version of Spider-Man is my favorite version so far. And
cool.
I was super excited. I'm super amped to watch this one. And now that you're saying all of this about it, I'm even more excited to go watch it. Earlier this week, I was watching a video that Kevin Smith had put together. Kevin Smith, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy, like all those, big films, Jay and Silent Bob. He's a big comic book nerd too, as some of you, listening may know. He talked about all the Spider-Man films and TV shows from like ever in history. And he said something that I hadn't been able to put together in my head. And when he verbalized it, I like instantly, oh yes, that is exactly why I like this character. In every iteration of Spider-Man that they've put out, they keep retelling the story of what happened to Uncle Ben. And they basically start from the beginning. Homecoming didn't do that. It just kind of started, and you kind of already knew you had Aunt May, but they didn't like really try to put that in your head again. More importantly, they played the character how it was written in the comics. Like, it felt like a teenage kid. He had that Brooklyn accent. Like, it had that vibe that the comics had. And so when you mentioned that they did the same thing with this one, I thought, oh man, that's so cohesive that it feels like it's really just this storyline that's happening X amount of years later. So oh man, dude, I can't even express to you how happy and excited I am now that you've said all this.
Yeah, I recommend it to anybody. It's really, really, really worth seeing. It's so good. There's two other things I want to mention real quick. The first is we get the first posthumous Stan Lee cameo in this film. Cool. And yeah, but it is awesome. It's one of my very favorite Stan Lee cameos. It's really good. And we talked about all of our favorite cameos a few episodes ago, so go check that out. But there's also, in the grand Marvel tradition, an amazing post-credits scene, which is hilarious. Yes, totally worth sticking around for.
All right. And can you tell us if yes or no it ties into the MCU at all?
I don't know. I don't have a cohesive knowledge of the MCU to say yes or no.
Gavin!
It probably does. There's probably some, mark on a wall and somebody's like, oh, that's the symbol for this organization or whatever. I don't know. I can't say. All I can say is it's funny.
Okay. I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
Okay, cool.
Only because the rest of what you said is so good.
Oh my gosh. I love this movie so much.
Awesome. Mel, do you plan on watching it anytime soon?
Now, yeah. I mean, to hear what Gavin's saying and knowing that he just isn't a superhero movie kind of person, yeah.
Nice.
I really hope it means that more studios are going to bring us animated, like feature animation of superheroes. It's always been relegated to cartoons on TV or like straight to DVD stuff for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. Like the big studios, unless it's their own creation, like The Incredibles for Pixar, or what was it called? Megamind. Movies like that where they're creating their own superheroes. Like I don't know why, but I feel like this should indicate that there's a definite venue for animated superheroes that could be huge.
Yeah.
Because this movie has it all. It's so good.
I agree. Well, hoping that by the time that we record again, I will have had some time to see it. Might be a little difficult with Christmas and New Year's coming up over the next week, but I'm certainly going to make an effort. I have that, and I have Mary Poppins Returns on the docket. That's been something I've been looking forward to watching for some time now, and I mean, I'm trying to stay away from all the spoilers and listening to people talk about it, but there's one thing that just keeps coming up over and over, that, oh, the songs are just forgettable. I'm like, what?
Well, it's also hard to be up on the level of the Sherman Brothers as well.
That's true. That's very true.
Because it was the songwriting that made that so amazing.
That's very true. Before we jump into some park stuff, can I just tell you, speaking of the parks, that I truly enjoyed that little Space Mountain cap that you posted on your Instagram, Gavin.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I am experimenting, learning, and trying out 3D printing now, which is it's a whole new world, you might say. And it's all because I recently changed jobs. So I work for this amazing company called Matter Hackers here in Southern California. And I basically work for a place that sells 3D printers, like desktop 3D printers. And I have access to 3D printing and 3D modeling, and I'm learning the whole thing. It's amazing. It's like science fiction. It's technology that's just right out there on the edge, and it's changing and evolving, and it's so much fun. And so I decided to model something for the first time. And of course, if you follow my art, you know that I'm kind of obsessed with the geometry of Space Mountain. So I did Space Mountain, and it kind of worked out pretty cool. For my first design and first print, like, everybody there was really impressed, and it turned out good. So there will be more to come.
I think you're being
Stay
humble,
tuned.
dude. I think you're being humble because you're just like, yeah, it just turned out good. I'm like, dude, this is freaking great.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's really, really great.
A fairly simple design, so the more expertise I get, the more detail and intricacies I can begin to pack into some of my designs. So I have a lot planned, a lot of ideas cooking in the old brain. So, like I said, stay tuned. We'll have more to show.
Totally exciting.
Yeah, if anybody out there has any sort of passing interest in 3D printing, check out Matter Hackers. We got a YouTube channel, we got an Instagram, and we actually have an open showroom down in Foothill Ranch. So if you want to come and stop by and check out some 3D prints and some 3D printers, you're totally more than welcome. It is an open door.
And for all your 3D printer purchasing needs, make sure to hit up Gavin.
Hear, hear.
I'm sure, dude, I'm just going to say that, if John Hench was around to see that little Space Mountain cap, he'd be super proud of you.
Wow.
I'm just going to throw it out there.
I would hope so.
I'm just going to throw it out there.
I don't know. It's not really Hench level design, but it's definitely inspired by him and his amazing shape and line work.
Well, for your first time, man, I'm telling you, it's amazing. I'm just going to say it. So
Thanks.
Okay, there was some other stuff that happened in the park that, I mean, they waited to do this, obviously, for the most opportune time. And this week we got news that the Tropical Hideaway was finally open just in time for us to be blocked out until January.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yay.
For real, right?
So true.
So, Tropical Hideaway, I've seen some photos and I've seen people posting about it. I'm super pumped about it because you guys know about the secret society that kind of links all the Disney parks. Well, not all of the Disney parks, but the Disney parks together, right?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Very little. I think I may be confusing it for something else.
Imagineers did this really cool thing in most of the Disney parks, and early last year at some point, they debuted something called Misadventure Falls at Typhoon Lagoon at Walt Disney World. That was a tie-in to what's called the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. It's this like secret-ish club, that ties Disney World and Tokyo Disney Sea with Fortress Explorations. And over at Hong Kong Disney, over at Mystic Manor, the whole point of Mystic Point is that it ties into Lord Henry Mystic, another member of the society. It's Monkey Albert and stuff. He's very iconic on that attraction. The Tower of Terror over there. It's got a storyline that has to do with this guy named Harrison Hightower III, who's one of the members of the society. And so most of the Disney parks had this tie-in, and I think the Tropical Hideaway is the first attraction at Disneyland that really calls to it, because I've seen some pictures that people are posting that seems to hint that that's the case. Now, I don't know exactly what's there because I haven't had a chance to visit it, but I'm super excited if that is the case and that they're tying it in to this storyline that's going on.
Interesting.
Did you guys get a chance to check out the Tropical Hideaway?
No.
I did.
You did?
Nice.
Okay.
Yes. At the end of the night on Friday night, we decided to go on Friday, which was the last night that we could go before we were blocked out, and we went to the bitter end. But near the end of the night, 10:30 or 11, we got to swing by the Tropical Hideaway, and I got to check it out. It looks great. I was very impressed with it. I like the vibe that they created. There's kind of a break between, the main pathway and the interior with the little water feature, the waterfall, and like two little bridges. There's tons of seating, it seems like. For that area, I was really impressed with the amount of seating. And Rosita looks awesome. She's great. She's visible throughout the restaurant, so I don't think there's a place you can sit where it's an obstructed view of her. You can see her from anywhere, and you can see the boats coming by from the Jungle Cruise, and she's able to communicate with the restaurant or the boats because of where she's perched, right on the edge in between the two. So it's really cool. It's just a neat little place, and they created a good atmosphere. It doesn't feel like it's a brand new thing stuck in the middle of old aged Adventureland. It feels like it has, some age to it, like it was always there, like it just belonged, which is awesome because I liked Aladdin's Oasis for the limited use that it got, but it always kind of didn't quite fit to me, with the particular Adventureland vibe. It didn't really work with me. And so this aesthetically and thematically works better. And I think that it's awesome. I can't wait to try the food.
Yeah. Yeah, Aladdin's Oasis really did break the cohesiveness of the general aesthetic because, you have the tiki room with there's a lot of bamboo and a lot of, plants, and all of a sudden you're in Agrabah. And then all of a sudden you're back in the jungle. So it really did break the cohesiveness. Did you ever get a chance to head to the Tahitian Terrace when it was still around?
I never did. I believe it was open at the time that we traveled out there several times when I was a kid. I've always known what it is, but it's not something that we went to.
Got it. What about you, Mel? Did you ever go to the Tahitian Terrace?
No, not to my knowledge. Yeah,
okay.
No.
One of the things that I'm curious about is how this new attraction / restaurant matches up to the Tahitian Terrace, right? Because back in its heyday, it was a performance venue with some food, but I think it was less space, but it felt big also. It was open until 1993, and that was way before we were going, frequently. So I never had a chance to experience it. By the time I stepped foot in Disneyland again, after my first trip when I was like 5 or something like that, it was already Aladdin's Oasis. So I don't ever recall really seeing it as a Tahitian Terrace myself. So I'm curious if anybody listening had a chance to visit the Tahitian Terrace and you've seen pictures of the Tropical Hideaway or had a chance to visit the Tropical Hideaway so far, join the conversation and leave us a comment over at the blog post, podketeers.com/236, or maybe on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. We're Podketeers on all of the social networks. I'm just curious, how does it compare? I know it's unfair to compare the two because it's two different things, but the theme that it had before, it was pretty popular, so it was, people were kind of shocked when they turned it into Aladdin's Oasis. This just seems that it just fits so much better. Even it fits maybe even better than the Tahitian Terrace did, at least from what I know about it. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on it, had a chance to visit, let us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you get a chance to see some of the decor, Gavin? Because one of the pictures that I saw that was posted was, it looks like all of the birdies that sing have perches available for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. It was dark when we were there, and it feels like it's mostly torchlight that illuminates it at night. So it has a really cool feel to it. There are obviously some real lights because it's not that dark, but it is a dimmer kind of place. So I didn't see some of the fine details. I can't wait to go back and explore some of that. But that's really cool. I didn't see that.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm really looking forward. It's a new place to photograph. I love photographing new spots at Disneyland, and you don't get many opportunities to do that. And I know
Sure.
that most photographers will argue that it's about where and how you photograph and looking for new angles, and that's true. You can always find new and exciting photographs, especially when you change your vantage point. But I mean, when you scroll through Instagram, there's a lot of photos that just look the same. And I've refrained from posting a lot recently because I kind of feel like the one that I wanted to post, 20 other people already posted something that looks almost exactly the same, because we're all taking that picture that makes us feel, and so
Yeah.
I just keep thinking, all right, well, maybe it's time for me to start switching it up now. So that's kind of where I am right now. I haven't been too active on my Instagram, and I think I'm just kind of rejiggering my train of thought when it comes to that. Of course, I'm going to keep posting the stuff that I post because I have a lot of photos, but I think it's time for me to start looking at things a little bit differently when I go to the parks. But that's a me thing, guys. I'm sorry, I'm throwing it out there, but that's a me thing.
Well, keep after it. I've said it before on the show. Your photography is the reason that I'm here, that we became friends, that I met you, that I became aware of the Podketeers, and that I'm co-hosting this show.
Aw,
So
thanks, buddy.
you got it.
Thanks.
So it all started with the photo.
It did.
Of a mouse.
Of a mouse's house.
Of a mouse's house.
I'm really glad that they did this Tropical Hideaway, though, and it makes me think about other underutilized or even completely unused spots in the park that hopefully they'll begin to address. I've read some recent things about their upcoming budgets in the parks, and there's huge amounts of money in the next year or two going to be allocated to updating, plussing, and managing things that have maybe kind of fallen down a peg or two, and I hope that right, exactly. Yes, that's a perfect example. And there are other areas that are, relatively empty, and that's kind of crazy in a place like Disneyland.
Yep.
So hopefully this is just the start of more interesting new details to come to the park.
Yeah,
Aside from Galaxy's Edge.
I agree. Yeah, it will be nice to see a further development, and really Disney's going to have to further develop because, we talked a little bit about this. Disneyland has started removing a lot of the benches and a lot of stuff around the parks and a lot of the trees that were kind of in the way. And it's not because they don't want you to sit somewhere. It's because it's a crowd control thing. Disneyland is very small and the streets are very narrow. And whenever you have benches, you have people sitting there with strollers and a bunch of other stuff. And so it can obstruct the flow of people traffic, of foot traffic along, the parade routes or firework routes. And if you've ever been trying to get out of the park or into any of the lands that the hub spokes out to, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because right after fireworks or a parade, it's kind of a nightmare. And so they went through this process of removing all of these benches and trying to open up and widen the walkways, but then it leaves this hole of where do people sit and what do they do. And so they've made accommodations already with, if you guys know, right next to the Bengal barbecue, there used to be a shop. They had the little Indiana Jones pinball machine and everything, and they redecorated that and redid that entire space as seating area next to Bengal barbecue. And it's great. It's nice and cool, air conditioned, especially in the summer. And now with the Tropical Hideaway, it's that next step. right? And
Yeah.
the more that they do this, the better off we're going to be, because it's so weird, because we complain as fans because it's too crowded, it's this and that, but then we're also the ones causing the problem, right? So then something
Yeah.
changes, and all of a
I'm
sudden
not
we're like,
causing
how
it."
dare they change it? How dare they do that? But they're doing it because we complained to begin with,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think this is just Disney listening, and sometimes the changes don't happen fast enough that people can see what the future holds and how much better it's going to be in those other avenues. And so I think when you try to look at it through those eyes, you begin to see why those changes are happening.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So I'm happy, man. So yeah, Tropical Hideaway, hoping we get a chance to see it that first weekend that we're back. I almost feel like it's going to be really packed, because the first day back also happens to be the last day that I believe the holidays at Disneyland will be active, and that's when they're going to start closing stuff down to switch the overlays back. So it might be packed that day. But I'm curious, because one of the things I want to try at the Tropical Hideaway is the new pineapple and orange swirl.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm all about that.
I want to chow on some bao.
What if it has a face
I don't
and
care.
little glasses?
Or being
It's
googly
it's
eyes.
probably delicious.
Or it gets married and drives away in a car.
Oh.
Will you still eat it then, Gavin?
If I can catch
Because
it.
the lady did. All right, so let's talk about some other park stuff that's going on. We're getting the Get Your Ears On celebration coming to
Yeah.
the
Oh,
parks.
yes.
We're just a couple weeks away from that officially kicking off. As you know, Disney does birthdays right, because every celebration that they have goes on for 16 and a half years. This is no
Just keep the party
exception.
starting. They keep going.
I'm kidding. Usually these celebrations that honor milestone anniversaries go on for a couple of years. I think the 60th anniversary went on for like 2.5 years-ish?
I think it was 2.5.
About,
yeah.
right? So this is paying tribute to Disney's most iconic couple, Mickey and Minnie. As you know, we recently celebrated their 90th birthday. We were in the park. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video for Mickey's 90th cavalcade, I'll put a link in the blog post for the episode, podketeers.com/236. Make sure that if you go over to our YouTube channel and check that out, smash that subscribe button and hit that bell icon for notifications whenever we post brand new videos. And if you like it, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and tell your friends about it. It was a cool celebration, super short, but I thought it was cool. They had the ambassadors involved. And now we're getting this Get Your Ears On celebration coming to the parks. We're getting Soundsational back.
I'm excited for that. I miss it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So is it going to be with new elements? They're going to plus it, right?
Yes, I believe we're getting a new float. Mickey's
Ooh.
getting a new float. There's going to be a new drum line to it. Again, I miss it, so I'm kind
Is
of
Mickey-
biased.
Is Mickey going to be the finale now? Because wasn't it Mary Poppins was the finale?
Yeah, Mary Poppins was the finale, and Mickey
Right.
was the beginning.
So I think
Is he
Mickey's still going to
at
be the beginning.
Oh, he's just getting a new float?
Yeah, so I think Mickey's going to be the beginning
Ah.
still, but now he's going to be in a huge birthday cake.
Hopefully it's Mickey and Minnie, right?
That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, well, they were both on the same Oh.
But as far as I know, Chip and Dale are supposed to accompany Mickey.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be Chip and Dale accompanying Mickey and or Minnie, still to be determined.
Huh.
So the entire opening is going to be slightly different now to pay homage to the 90th anniversary or the 90th birthday
Okay.
of Mickey and Minnie. And then we're supposed to get a few different elements throughout the parade as well. But that's starting back on January 25th, which is a couple weeks after we're allowed to be back into the park. So I'm excited to see that because Soundsational is one of my favorite parades. I love the soundtrack to it. And I know, Gavin, I know you're not a big parade guy. That's your let's go ride on rides time. But Soundsational, I think, has one of the more upbeat and happy soundtracks.
Yeah.
So do we know if they're going to update the music for the parade at all?
It's supposed to be slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is slightly
Hopefully they do
revamped.
it better than what they did for Paint the Night with the Incredibles, which didn't really felt like it was kind of pasted in there sloppily, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still think about that, and I don't really understand the placement of the Incredibles float in Paint the Night, but yeah, it really did feel like it was a last minute addition to Paint because I like the music for the Incredibles. I just think the placement didn't fit because of what was going on. The Paint the Night soundtrack has just ups and downs throughout the entire soundtrack, and
Yeah.
just where it was, just it kind of broke you out of the element of the song. You know, it didn't flow as
Yeah.
well. And you're right. I hope that they don't do the same thing for Sensational because it's such a good. It just gets you pumped, man. Once you start listening to
Yeah.
it, you want to start dancing, and they got the drum line coming through, and it's a great piece of music.
Well, the other thing that they're doing besides the parade, though, is a nighttime show with projections,
Yes.
which that I think is going to be pretty interesting. I think it's the first time ever that they're officially saying that it's a part-time pyro kind of show.
Yeah.
Where they're only going to include fireworks on certain weekends.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. So that means that really the main focus of the show is going to be on projected surfaces. So
Yes.
it's going to change where we might want to stand and watch these things. And
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting and might kind of be a game changer as far as park flow, because, you know, that's usually my beef with these kinds of things, is that this park was never designed for 10,000 people to be in any one spot anywhere. And nightly and daily they are, and it just becomes a traffic jam. So I'm kind of excited to see the show. First of all, I think it looks really cool from what we've seen so far. And I'm also excited to see if it kind of spreads out the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, I think it will. You know, I think Disney has done stuff like this in the past already where when they just had the fireworks shows, people tended to crowd around the hub, in front of the castle, on Main Street, towards the end. And that was really the only place where you could enjoy something like that. When they started incorporating the projection mapping, people started spreading out over towards Tomorrowland, and then all of a sudden they added it on It's a Small World, they added it in the Rivers of America, the way that they project Fantasmic, and now you had these two other places where you can watch it from. When they incorporated the Matterhorn, now you could spread out into that area, and by the way, the Matterhorn is like my favorite canvas for those, because the projections
Cool.
look just super cool for any show that they do. Just
Oh, nice.
giant canvas. Now that they do most of the projection mapping along Main Street, I think we mentioned it this last episode when Melissa and I were in the park with my wife and kids for our final day that we could go for Christmas.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the fireworks show from right in front of the Penny Arcade. And that's kind of our default spot now because you get a decent view of the castle. You get a decent view of the fireworks above the castle, but you see all of the projections on Main Street from there. And that's never a spot where I thought like, yeah, I want to see it from here until the projection started happening during Disneyland's 60th anniversary when they were doing Disneyland Forever.
Yeah.
If this is just part-time fireworks or no fireworks at all going forward, we've talked about them making that change, right? Where they wanted to get rid
Yeah.
of the pyro itself and do more mapping and use drones and stuff like that for these types of shows. It might be that game changer, like you said, right? We're still going to get all the stuff on the facade of It's a Small World. We're still getting it at the Rivers of America. It is a slightly different experience, right? If you've seen it more than once, it's no big, right? You can see it in one of the other locations, but I think if you're there for the first time, you want that iconic castle, like, you know, view with the fireworks. Like, to most people, that's what Disneyland's about. So
Yeah.
if you're watching it for the first time, it's all good. But yeah, this is gonna start. It's Mickey's Mix Magic is what the show is called. Mickey
Yes.
is going to be emceeing it. He's going to be the DJ. I think it has more of a...
Mickey.
Yeah, it kind of has like this nightclub feel to it.
I saw mention of lasers.
Oh, there's going to be
Yeah.
tons of lasers in this one, dude. And the theme song, I haven't had a chance to really listen to it, but the theme song is called It's a Good Time. And it's supposed to be this like dancey type song that, you know, is supposed to give people that dance like vibe. So I think it's very similar. I don't know, dude. I think it's gonna be like the Disney Electronica on Main Street vibe
Yeah.
to it.
Nice.
You know,
I'm
so
all excited for
very
this.
Club Disney. So I want to be there, dude. I'm super
Yeah.
excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I'm also wondering if and when World of Color ever returns to us, if it comes back this coming year, maybe it'll be a Mickey centric show. I think that would be really cool too, because I like World of Color. It's kind of the one exception to all these nighttime shows that I have seen several times, and I do enjoy it. So, and I think it's largely because I feel like there's a comfortable venue from which to watch it, you know? So I wonder what they're going to do with that, because it's been down for a long time at this point.
Yeah.
But they've traditionally used it for this kind of thing, because they used it for the 60th, and they had
Yeah.
a special World of Color show for that, which I thought was great.
So World of Color went down for just general maintenance back in April when they started the transition to Pixar Pier. But there was a lot of damage to the fountains. And so I don't know if they were further damaged during the construction of Pixar Pier, or if it was just damage that they had incurred from general showings and just kind of, wear and tear. But they were hoping to bring it back by the end of 2018. And so by now we should have had World of Color back, but they ended up pushing it to now sometime in 2019 because they're still working on all of that. So it is coming back. It just doesn't have a definite date as to when it's coming back right now.
Well, hopefully it'll be soon. The bay looks kind of crappy with the fountains sticking out of it all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think about this whole Mickey celebration that's going to last a year? Do you have like really high hopes for it? Like, do you feel like it's going to be fitting for Mickey Mouse? Because I feel like the last couple things they did, like specifically Pixar Fest, it seemed like a lot of signs and a couple of shows, but I didn't feel like it was a real celebration of Pixar, throughout the resort.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it could have been. I feel like they missed some opportunities. So I'm hoping with Mickey, they really, really push it. Like let's party with Mickey the whole year and make it a big deal. I hope they do. What do you guys think on that level?
I think they're going to reach expectations. I have high expectations because of electronica. And seeing what Disney could do with remixing their own music, I mean,
Sure.
like familiar tunes that we know of, they do a great job. So to see what they're going to do and projections and the lasers, it's going to give that vibe. And I don't think it's going to be like corny or anything. I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to get everybody to just celebrate, dance.
Well, see, I'm on board with the parade and the show, right? I'm talking about, they're pitching it in a similar way that they did with Pixar Fest, where it's not just we're celebrating for 15 minutes at the end of the night. It's supposed to be like the park is celebrating Mickey, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, do you feel like you're going to feel that throughout the park wherever you are
No.
and whatever you're doing?
Not throughout the park, because you're not going to get that like in New Orleans Square. I don't think so. If you were to go Small World Mall, pretty much, I want to say everywhere except for Frontierland, New Orleans Square, Critter Country, you're not going to feel that.
Yeah.
See, I would want to see like Mickey in all those lands dressed in garb that's appropriate for those lands, and Mickey themed decorations in every land that fits that land. Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like decorate it as if it's a year-long party for Mickey.
I thought you meant,
Mickey's
like,
in on the action.
show.
No, I'm talking about like walking through the park any time of
Got
day.
you.
The atmosphere, the mood, it's supposed to be a celebration, right? Like Pixar Fest, I feel like was supposed to be celebrating Pixar for that whole summer.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel it except for in the Esplanade, they were playing Pixar music and they slapped stickers on the monorail and they had a nighttime show. And that's it. I didn't feel like, they had all the food, but unless you're into touring the park through the food, then you don't really see it. So with Mickey, that's the big cheese, man. I feel like they should decorate the park for his birthday. I think Mickey should be everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And I want to feel it. That's my hope for it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree with Melissa. I think that you'll feel it more, like, and It's a Small World Mall right before maybe Toontown. You'll certainly get a vibe on Main Street, but I don't think it's going to be a huge vibe. I think the vibe is going to come more from the merchandise. I think what would help, like you said, is if they actually had banners, kind of like the Pixar Pier banners that they had in the Esplanade, but throughout the park, with some visuals that say that it's Mickey and Minnie's 90th birthday party or whatever we're celebrating. And I don't think we're going to necessarily see that. We might feel it a little bit more because it's Mickey in his park versus... hey, by the way, here's Pizza Planet in Tomorrowland, which you don't really see for, Pixar Fest. And unless you were looking at the monorail, you wouldn't have really known that it was Pixar Fest. So Pixar Fest really did feel short from the marketing and from the visual standpoint of what it was celebrating. You're completely right on that. But I think this one isn't going to be as much the visual as it is the feeling. Because Mickey might come out dressed a little bit different, for his birthday, and so the photo ops will feel different. They might change up, the Mickey design in the front by the train station. The flower bed that they have, that might change. I don't know exactly. But overall, I just think that it's going to be pretty much business as usual until it comes to Soundsational and it comes to the fireworks show or the new nighttime show. Because that's kind of how it felt on his birthday, right? Aside from the fact that they had the little Mickey, the sipper, the birthday sipper, and the fact that they had the cavalcade, it really didn't feel like they were celebrating Mickey that day.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like business as usual.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at that time they're trying to compete with the holiday season. But that's what I would like to see. They do Halloween decorations throughout the park. They do Christmas decorations throughout the park. I personally would love to see Mickey decorations throughout the park. Yeah. They could, on Main Street, they could have red and yellow and black bunting with the banners on the lampposts. They can do, Mickey-themed garlands in New Orleans Square like they do for Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do, there's a million things they could do. Sam and I could get together and come up with 10 million awesome ideas for decorating the park for Mickey, and it would be amazing. And I just hope, I don't know, I want it to be celebratory.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a show, a parade, and merchandise.
I get you, man. I'm totally with you on that.
The most I've seen the whole park decorated was when the train and the Mark Twain came back. I mean, that was like the most amount of balloons that they had put at every stop on the Mark Twain itself. That looked really cool and festive, but I think that was only for one day.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to say it was only a day.
I don't know if the song Mickey's Mix Magic is going to be like the official theme song for the celebration. But I know that a couple of years ago for Mickey's birthday, remember when Mickey changed into that contemporary outfit where he was traveling around the world? Like he had like the sneakers on and he had like kind of like the black jacket. Like that was one of my favorite Mickey outfits of all time because it just seemed casual. He looked super cool dancing in it. And Tony Ferrari had created a song called What We Got, which was Mickey's birthday song. And it just became the theme song for that year, like it was a super catchy song. And that year, it really felt like they really pushed the whole Mickey's birthday dynamic with this whole, going around the world and everything.
Yeah.
And this year, they had that special at the shrine, but it just kind of, it was like a one-day thing. Like, it kind of fell short. And I think that's what you're talking about, right, Gavin? That they're having all these one-off things, but none of it feels like it goes to the grand scheme of every day, 24/7, celebrating Mickey's birthday at the park.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, I don't know if it's as big, but it's in the same ballpark as, like, the 50th anniversary of the park and the 60th. And, I mean, this is the 90th, And I don't know. I just feel like it deserves something.
Yeah. I agree, man. But we'll see. I mean, we have a couple more weeks before. I mean, they could completely prove us wrong, right? They might actually
Sure.
have learned something from how Pixar Pier was promoted and Pixar Fest, and maybe enough people voiced their concerns or voiced their opinions that, maybe this will be different. Maybe that's what they were saving all that money for, to make Mickey decorations. Who knows? Who knows?
True.
We'll see.
That'd be awesome.
So let's at least revisit this after a week or two that it's been active, and then we'll kind of see where it goes. Because I think it kicks off when we get back, because the celebration pretty much starts at the beginning of the year. The nighttime show starts on the 18th, so it's not necessarily when
Okay.
we're back in the park. But Sensational doesn't return until a week after, on January 25th. So it's going to be staggered over the month of January. So maybe let's revisit this maybe the end of January, early February, and let's see how they've done.
Okay.
Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, cool. So the last thing that we want to talk about in this episode is, we've been seeing a lot of stuff on the upcoming Lion King live action film, which I still believe is not live action because it's all 3D, whatever, but that's a different conversation. The point is that because of the Lion King, it's going to be released very soon. There was an online petition talking about how people want Disney to relinquish the trademark of Hakuna Matata because it's a Swahili phrase, and people are saying that they have no right to trademark something that they didn't invent. Your thoughts on this petition?
I think this is very interesting, and I think it's a lot of misinterpretation and a lot of people taking offense where none is really intended or actually exists. And I think the problem becomes when people feel like Disney has taken that phrase away from people.
Yeah.
Which they really haven't. You can say Hakuna Matata. There's no limit on you saying that. You can actually create merchandise that says Hakuna Matata. You just can't create anything that looks like it came from Lion King and have Hakuna Matata.
Right.
You can't create a T-shirt with a warthog and I forget what Timon is.
A meerkat.
A meerkat. Yeah, you can't create, those two animals and put Hakuna Matata on a T-shirt and sell it. Like, that's what they trademarked, is its use in the film, in that song, by those characters with that intent. They're not appropriating anything, I don't feel, and they're certainly not barring people from using that Swahili phrase.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because when it comes to business and intellectual properties, I mean, you have to be careful or people will rip you off. And at the same time, there's enough wiggle room there where you can still use Hakuna Matata. It's fine. It's interesting because I looked into it and I read a bunch of articles on this, and I don't really understand the intent behind the demand for Disney to relinquish this trademark. But I understand Disney's side of it. And I don't know if that makes me the bad guy or what, or just the businessman. But it relates back to a very famous trademark situation that came up between none other than the Beatles, which is my favorite music group of all time, and Apple Computers, which is my favorite computer company of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Steve Jobs, when he was creating his company, wanted to call it Apple because he was a huge fan of the Beatles. You ask, what the heck does that have to do with the Beatles? Well, the Beatles created their own record label called Apple Records, and they had a company called Apple Limited. And basically, they trademarked Apple. So when Steve Jobs created his company, Apple, litigation came against him. And basically, it was ruled that as long as Steve Jobs never did anything in the music industry, then he could be fine using Apple for his computer company. Well, you fast forward 20 years and iTunes comes along, And the whole thing blows up again because now Apple is directly in the music business. So, you know, it has more to do with what you're actually using your name for, what you're using this trademark thing for. You know, those two groups basically came to a settlement where, you know, money was exchanged. In this kind of a case, that's not really going to happen. Disney's not going to give money to everyone who speaks Swahili to, you know, appease whatever this is. But I think that's the point, is that it's just how you're using this that becomes the problem. For 99.9999999% of the uses possible for the phrase Hakuna Matata, you're free to do it. The 0.0000001 thing that you can't do is just tie it to the Lion King film.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just such a minuscule little, it's like semantics. And I ultimately just don't see the problem, because to me, I feel like in a lot of ways, Lion King is a tribute to Africa and African culture. And I think it's a very positive thing, but I guess that's not how it's seen all the time.
Yeah. I see like the Lion King stage show, like the Broadway show, as more of a tribute than I do the film.
Sure.
But I kind of understand the road that you're taking with that one. And like you said, I think it's just a matter of people not understanding exactly, you know, what trademarks and copyrights and patents and all that stuff kind of mean. But You're right. Like, Disney released a statement at one point when this whole thing started. Their statement read, Disney's registration for Hakuna Matata, which was filed in 1994, has never and will not prevent individuals from using that phrase. And that's pretty much all they've said on the matter. Really, this began to pick up traction because in 1982, there was a band by the name of Them Mushrooms, it's a Kenyan band, that had a song called Jambo Bwana, where they used the phrase Hakuna Matata. The song was super popular. It went platinum. They basically said, hey, look, 14 years after we released this song, all of a sudden Disney is putting together this thing. But like Gavin said, it has nothing to do with the trademark on the phrase itself. They were protecting how it tied into the Lion King. So you're right. If you wanted to put something together that says Hakuna Matata, you can, because it's a phrase. And I'm sure that as long as it's not tied into the Lion King, you know, Disney won't really do anything about that. It's when it gets tied into those characters that they created or the songs that are related to the film where it begins to become a problem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting where this is going to go, because I don't think it's going to get very far after this, because I don't see it as appropriation either. I mean, but it's not affecting me, you know, in any way. So maybe that's why I see it like that. I don't know. I mean, if there's a case for it and you guys would like to pose it, I'd like to hear it. I'm not being mean about it or anything. I'm just, you know, I would just like to learn more about it as to why it might be considered appropriation. But because the way that I see it right now, I don't see it like that.
That's where I was confused as well. I was reading articles. I was trying to understand why it was done. And what I thought was, you know, Disney is not going to be there to harm. That's not one thing they wanted to do. And I was researching back on how they prepared for The Lion King, all the things that they did. I mean, actually pretty much with every film, just like Coco, they try their best to learn before they even, you know, do this film, because of look what it is. It's someone's, you know, culture. They don't want to do harm.
Yeah.
It's still, I want to know if there's another side to this, but I just don't see Disney doing harm. And just like Gavin, what you had said, you could still put those words together. That's fine. It's just because they created the Lion King. It's just you can't do like the Simba symbol, you know, that you see on the tree. You can't do that. I think that's the only where it should just stand.
I think some of the confusion stems from just understanding what a trademark is.
Yeah.
You know, Hazen mentioned a second ago patents as well, and that's more to do with something you've invented that's unique. Trademark is trademarking a unique use of something, you know? For example, Nike is ancient Greek. You know, they didn't invent the word Nike. It comes from a statue of a winged immortal being.
Yeah.
And they trademarked Nike. But that's not to say you can't use the word Nike for anything. You know, Yahoo is trademarked.
Yeah.
That means you can't go around saying Yahoo. You know, you can all you want, and you can use it in various ways. You just can't use it in a way that, you know, competes with what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's really just, you know, because I heard a lot of comments like Disney didn't invent that. They can't own it. Well, that's not what this is about. They know they don't own it. They're just protecting their usage of it and the artistic license that they took when they created that film and the products, you know, thereof. And it has nothing to do with who invented it or where its origin was. It's weird. It's an interesting legal discussion, and it's a common thing these days for something to come up with, no matter what it is, you know. Yeah. Somebody's going to find some way to make a big deal about something.
Right.
And I don't, you know, it's hard to weigh everything and tell every time like what's right, what's wrong in these types of situations. 9 times out of 10, to me, it just seems like nothing. I don't know. You know, one of the things that we've joked about recently and talked about a little bit is this whole debate about, is the genie going to be blue or not in the Aladdin film, you know? And some people are really upset about the idea that he's not going to be blue. And they have big problems with this. And I think that's nothing, you know? I really do. I think that's nothing. But people get passionate and they want to get worked up about something for whatever it's worth. And I don't know that this is what it is, because it seems to be coming from a place of sincerity, but maybe a place of misidentified intentions.
Yeah. I think because of the fact that when people or companies file any type of paperwork for stuff like this, like people tend to see it as that's it belongs to them. Nobody could ever use it, right? But like you said, it's just an identifier. That's what a trademark is. It just identifies the source of what company it's coming from rather than what their physical products are. And that's kind of where this lies. It's not necessarily that they're saying, hey, look, we came up with it. They're just using it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think overall this is just kind of going to blow over after a little bit. I understand why the petition started. And like you said, I think it's just a limitation of knowing what trademarks. And look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the ins and out of all of this. This is just from what I've gathered, reading a little bit about what trademarks, what patents, what copyrights are, why this started, why it's happening, and why they feel it was being appropriated. But like, there's so many patents out there that people will take you to court over. You know, and as far as this one, Disney is pretty much saying like, no, look, you can use it. You can say it. It's fine. We're just trying to protect the Lion King property, not Hakuna Matata itself. So, especially considering they have a song called Hakuna Matata. Right. So it's going to be interesting where this one ends up. So we're definitely going to keep our eyes open. And as soon as we know how it turns out, we'll definitely talk about it again in an upcoming episode. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it for this episode. If you have any thoughts on what we just talked about or any of the other subjects in this or any other episode, make sure to join the conversation. Head over to the blog post for the episode, podketeers.com/236. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll read your comments on an upcoming episode. You can leave us a comment on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. You can join our Facebook group over Podketeers. We'll put links to all of that in the blog post as well. Before we close up the podcast, I just want to remind you that this episode of Podketeers is brought to you by our podcast, Fairy Godparents. They call themselves the FGP Squad, and for those that don't know, they are a group of amazing listeners that help us out with a monthly contribution via Patreon. If you would like to become part of the FGP Squad, head on over to podketeers.com/FGP for more information on how you can become a part of the FGP Squad. You can do so for as little as $1, but for a minimum of $5, you also get the exclusive Fairy Godparent button as a thank you for your support, and there's going to be more content that's going to be exclusive to you next year as well. So look forward to all of that. To all of our podcast Fairy Godparents, we thank you as always for your support.
Also, big things for Podketeers in 2019.
Oh,
Make sure you're a part of it.
I'm so excited for all the changes that are coming. Should we give them a taste, or should we wait till the next episode?
No spoilers. No
Okay.
spoilers.
For all you Doctor Who fans, there's a little River Song reference for you. Spoilers. Alright, so that is going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. Time to go wrap some more gifts. Time to make some hot chocolate and watch a movie and just relax.
Wrap all the gifts.
That's right, all of them.
Haven't
All
even
the ones-
started.
all the ones I had to line up for hours and hours and hours for. So,
Oh, man.
Merry Christmas. All right, everyone. So, until next time, have a magical week, everyone.
Made you look.
Can we still say Merry Christmas?
Yeah, we can still say Merry Christmas. Merry belated Christmas.
There you go. Feliz
Merry
Navidad.
un-Christmas.
Happy greetings.
Happy greetings. Holly jolly un-Christmas.